we, I don't know how to put it, except to say we are in a world of chaos and very possible apocalyptic end to our experiment with democracy. We're really facing it. I mean, I realize the audience I'm talking to, and I realize I don't have to say that repeatedly, but okay. The judge that will conduct the arraignment, Trump claims that the judge hates him. This poor victim, little prick, Donald Trump. I mean, seriously, you ever notice that about him? Of course you do. Every time he gets caught, every time he has to face anything even remotely resembling consequences, he starts pissing his pants and squealing like an 18-month-old about, he hates me. They hate me. They're trying. It's a plot. It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. Jesus Christ, this little whining bastard. Huh? But his attorney, this miserable Joe Tacopina, he was on some of the Sunday shows yesterday, and he said he doesn't believe the judge who oversaw the indictment and will oversee the arraignment hates the orange Nazi. See, on Friday, the Nazi claimed on his Truth Social account that Juan Merchan, I guess that's his name, Merchan? Yeah. He's the New York Supreme Court judge who's overseeing the criminal proceedings. Now, that's not the state Supreme Court. This is what it's just called in New York. Anyway, the orange Nazi was claiming that Judge Merchan had treated Trump's company, all caps, viciously in the tax fraud case that wrapped up in January, and that the judge had railroaded the former executive for the Trump Organization, poor old Alan Weisselberg, into pleading guilty. And by the way, I heard something last week that Weisselberg, who probably has had enough of Rikers Island now or wherever they have him, that Weisselberg may be willing to, as they say in the mob, start singing about what Trump actually has done. Well, we'll see. Anyway, Tacopina, going back to this miserable asshole who's going to be representing Trump or is representing Trump, he was on ABC's This Week, and he waved off what the orange Nazi said about the judge hates him. Tacopina said, quote, "Do I think the judge is biased? Of course not. How could I subscribe to that when I've had no interactions with the judge that would lead me to believe he's biased?" End quote. Which is a very clever way of leaving the door open just a crack, right, Joe? So that at some point maybe you can say, well, now that I've had some interactions with the judge, yeah, I think my client's right. He does hate my poor little crybaby pants-pissing Donald Trump. You see, that's how that works, right? He was asked about why the orange Nazi was saying that the judge hates him. I think, what's his name? Stephanopoulos asked that question. And Tacopina answered by saying, quote, "You're interviewing me, George, right? I'm his attorney. I'm myself. I'm not his PR person. I'm not a spokesperson. He's entitled to his own opinion. And given what he's been through, quite frankly, I don't blame him for feeling the way he feels," end quote. So Joe just plows right into this whiny ass, oh, I'm such a victim, excuse me while I wet myself bullshit that the orange Nazi constantly throws up in front of these weak-kneed bastards who make up the QAnon movement and the MAGA movement and these little pissy brown shirt movements that he has put together. It is so disgusting. I wonder if Hitler or Mussolini ever said, hates me, the Jews hate me. It was the other way around, orange Nazi. It was Hitler saying, I hate the Jews. But Trump can't man up, if that's the definition of manning up, for anything. He's always a little crybaby victim. Everybody's always picking on me. Reminds me of a early rock and roll song from the 50s, huh? Charlie Brown, he's such a clown. Why's everybody always picking on me? If you're old enough, you remember that. If you're not old enough, you probably think I'm out of my mind. But this is what Trump does. He's a crybaby little bastard. And those are the most dangerous types if they get full power. Because then in their minds, everything they do is justified. And anything that anybody does in resistance is an attack on der Führer. Trump fits the profile perfectly. So, then Tacopina hot-footed it over to CNN's State of the Union on Sunday after ABC. And when he was asked about what Trump's going to say in the courtroom, Tacopina said, quote, "We will very loudly and proudly say not guilty." Loudly and proudly, Joe? Now, I realize everybody in this country is entitled to to a lawyer, and if you can't afford one, one will be appointed to defend you. But do you have to go that far, Joe? I mean, really? You're going to say it proudly? I would be willing to bet that Joe Tacopina, who now represents Trump, one in a long line of effed up attorneys who, for some reason, decide to defend this guy. But I think that Joe knows, just like you do, just like I do, Joe knows in his heart there's pro forma situation we have to go through. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Yes, I know. But Joe knows that this son of a bitch is as guilty as could be. His fixer, poor old Michael Cohen, has already gone to prison for the same thing. And when a felony is committed by two people or three or 100, if only one actually makes the money pay off, they're all guilty. I would imagine that, I'm guessing here, but I would imagine that the district attorney in New York, Mr. Bragg, might even have a RICO charge up his sleeve against Trump. I certainly hope so. Now, as to be expected, the Christian fascists in this country echoed Trump's attack on the legal system on Sunday. A bunch of them called the indictment an unprecedented attack on a political leader that may lead to legal or even physical retaliation. These are Christian fascists. They do not ever, under any circumstances, believe in the rule of law unless it is biblical law, unless it involves stoning and killing and ostracizing and butchering. They do not have any respect for civil law. There's not a Christian fascist on earth, much less in this country, who has any respect for civil law. Consequently, they call the legal system of this country responding to the crimes that this orange Nazi has committed by saying, well, this is an unprecedented attack on a political leader. These are the same Christians who, in Germany in the 30s, praised Hitler, praised him, supported him, were willing to die for him by the tens of millions. These are the same people, the ghosts. Now, the rhetoric that the orange Nazi is putting out there has caused one former district attorney in Manhattan, Cyrus Vance, who I guess retired. He said that there's a possibility of what the orange Nazi is saying could lead to more serious charges than what he's facing now. I would think so. Cyrus Vance was on Meet the Press on NBC, and he said this, quote, "I would be mindful of not committing some other criminal offense like obstruction of governmental administration. And I think that could take what perhaps we think is not the strongest case, and when you add a count like that and put it in front of a jury, it can change the jury's mind about the severity of the case they're looking at. Well, yeah, I'll tell you, I would probably give up one or two of my digits in order to be on the jury that, if it comes to this, it will try Trump. Oh, my God. Now, back to Tacopina, who is representing now the American Nazi, which is Tacopina's most important crime family head that he's ever represented. And he was over on CNN. This guy was swift all day yesterday. He said there's no evidence that Trump falsified business records. And he called Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, quote, a pathological convicted liar, end quote. Yeah, that's true, Tacopina, but since you're a practicing Catholic, you understand Christian doctrine about the sinner who confesses, serves his time, and is welcomed back into the arms of the Lord Jesus Christ. Right, Tacopina? Come on, man. You had confirmation. You went through catechism in your local church. You know this shit. Come on, Tacopina. He was a convicted liar, but that was then. This is now. Now he's going to be one of the voices that puts your scum-sucking client in a very difficult position, right? Now, Cyrus Vance, who initiated the review of this case when he was still district attorney, he made kind of a lukewarm attempt to defend Michael Cohen's credibility. Cyrus Vance said, quote, we often find in criminal cases that the witnesses who are involved aren't necessarily, they're not priests or nuns, end quote. Well, really? Okay. So, Joe Tacopina, listen up. Listen to what Cyrus Vance is saying, who's another good Christian, right? Huh? Cyrus Vance added, quote, they are who they are and whatever organization they have. I have no idea what that means, but that's what he added. And then we have James Trusty. You like that last name? He's a lawyer representing Trump in the federal case over Trump's theft and abuse of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago Winter Palace. And Trusty is part of the Orange Nazis team, legal team, in the case here in Georgia about Trump's interference in the counting of votes here in the 2020 election. And he said, James Trusty said that Trump's indictment in Manhattan is, quote, political persecution. Oh, you asshole. Why? I mean, these guys are waging, obviously, a PR war. A judge hears that shit and goes, oh, stop it. Will somebody go get my lunch? Stop it with the political persecution. Son of a bitch is a lawbreaker, folks. But he was on the Fox Sewer on Sunday, Fox News Sunday. It was a busy day for the TV networks, right? And Trusty said that the commonality among Trump's cases is that prosecutors, quote, are pushing the envelope legally because they've decided to target a man rather than actually follow evidence, end quote. You son of a bitch, Trusty. And Trusty also warned that, quote, once you let the genie out of the bottle with this new mode of prosecution, it's not going to go back in by itself. It's going to be a problem for generations, end quote. Oh, I get it. So what the United States is supposed to do in all the various jurisdictions that want to see this law-breaking son of a bitch take responsibility is to drop everything, right, Mr. Trusty? Just drop everything. Maybe Trump will wind up in prison as something similar, Mr. Trusty, to what your last name is. There's a good possibility. I mean, Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.